All right, cool. So this is pretty much done with the help of recursion, right? So you guys remember the use case of recursion, right? Who can tell me what's the recursion? It's not F recursion, it's recursion. So what's recursion?
When we call function, the same function inside this function, something like that.
Same function, yep. So we're gonna have a simple simple function, and then inside a function we'll try to call the same exact function over and over again, right? So basically, we'll create a function, which is a function, it calls itself to solve a smaller instance of the same problem that we are trying to resolve. So basically, let's say touch test.js. Okay, so now we'll create a test.js file, and we'll try to run the node over here like this. Okay, as you guys already know it. So for instance, let's say we have an array of constant array of numbers, right? Doesn't matter. And we'll try, what is it saying? Okay, so, and we're trying to get the sum of array of numbers. Now, what's the first way of to get the sum of array of numbers?
Reduce.
Right, we can just say sum, right? Just running the for loop, right? And we can run array that for each, and then increase the sum, and then console.log result. Okay, that's the first solution using for loop. Another solution would be using a function called, let's just create a simple function, okay? And we're gonna call this function inside itself, and that's called recursion. Using the recursion, we'll try to find the sum of the results of these the numbers. All right. So basically, what we are going to say is that constant sum array. All right. So a constant sum array, and it will return some sort of a number, sum. Okay. And then when we console log sum array, and we'll pass the data or this array right here, the top. As a result, we should get something like the sum of this, right? So basically, what we can do here is that we can take the first with the first item right here, which is when we pass array right here, okay, and then array 0, and then pass plus. Now we can call the same function again and pass the remaining instances, right? Not including the first item, right? So every time we can do the same thing and go from basically running the same function over again. So in this case, sum array. Now what can I do is I can just slice out from the first item, right? And then get the remaining. Okay. So right over here, I can say array that slice 1. Now, as you guys can know, slicing from 1 means starting from index 1, just grab until the end. Okay, slice takes 2 arguments in actually, right? 2 arguments. But if you put just 1, it means that starting from index until the end of the array. This is how we do it. But of course, inside the function, what we can do is we need to put some sort of limitation here. Okay, right? So if you don't put the limitation here, at some point we'll hit the last index. Okay, and then we won't have any type of array at this point. Okay, we won't have any type of array. So right over here we can say if array that length is equal to 0. Now we can return, right? We can return 0. Otherwise, don't return 0. just keep adding these numbers to themselves. As you guys can see, 36. Now this type of recursion is used in a lot of places. Instead of using a regular for loop, we can utilize this recursion to find out all of these things. Any questions?
Yeah, can you show us some other example when we
Example would be, yeah, other example.
only recursion, like, because in this case, yeah, using like higher order functions will be better, but some case when will be really better to use recursion.
Yes. So how about factorial? You guys know the factorial, right?
I don't remember.
Factorial in mathematics, for instance, if I say factorial of 5, I'm expecting to have 5 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 1. Right? Basically, this multiplication. If you put 10, 10 multiplied by 9, 8, 7, 6, blah, 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 blah. Right? The factorial of a number is basically until 1, right? Just the multiplication of these numbers. Okay, so basically, let's create this function, constant factorial, and we'll just get a number. What am I doing? Okay, is equal to, of course, let's use arrow function here. And if I say factorial of a number 5, for instance, I should be expecting something like, what is it? 20, 60, 120. Okay. So what we can do here is basically return, right? We need to return something out of here. Otherwise, we will not be able to do that. So basically, we can return num multiplied by, and now we can run the factorial again, okay? Initially, we are putting 5 right here, and now 5 multiplied by, what we can do here? Now it's 1 less, right? 1 less of the number. Basically, num minus 1. Num minus 1. So now we need to make sure that we need to put some limitation like this, right? If statement. Otherwise, what we have after that? Multiplied by 0, multiplied by minus 1, etc. It's going to be always 0 because at some point we're multiplying by 0, multiplying by minus 1. It will just keep continuing, okay? So whatever you multiply 0 is always 0. So in order to avoid that type of edge cases, we need to put if statement right here. So what can be if statement here now?
If num equals 0.
Number equal minus.
Is it if num is equal to 1 or if num is equal to 0 or if num is equal to 2? What can you put?
Num minus 1.
I think 0
Equals 0.
and return 1.
So if num is equal to 0, then we can return 1. Okay, so now if I save it, if I run it again, 120. Now it doesn't matter what number you put down here, 10. And if I run it again, oops, I forgot to save it, guys. So if I run it again, this is the factorial of 10. So we will be using, when we are doing this project right here, we will be using the same concept. All right, we're going to use recursion, and the data will be an array of objects. Okay, an array of objects. So as you guys can see right here, public, right? It's kind of like our the project setup right here, right? We don't have node modules. That's fine. You can put it node modules. That's fine. And we have public. We have SRC. Inside SRC, we have components, styles, assets, blah blah blah. It's similar to our project setup. Doesn't have to be exact same thing. You can definitely change the data down here. Okay. We can apply the same. We'll try to go over this data and display based on the objects right here, right? The items inside the array. So what is one identifying thing that distinguishing thing actually? Yeah, what is the distinguishing thing of these objects? Type. Okay, some of the objects have type dir, and which will contain children, right? Some of the objects right here have the type of file, which they don't have children, right? Okay, and then they have names. All of these, of course, all of these objects have names. So we can, based on the type right here, now we have a test right here, right? So based on the type right here, look right here. If type is dir, display this. If type is a file, display this. Okay. Now it's not going to be like returning. Of course, it's going to be returning because we are returning something from our component. We need to return something. Okay. So the same logic as we have in the recursion. Now we'll create a function, whether it can be a helper function or whether it can be just the FGS6 itself. We'll try to see different options that we have. Okay. And then we'll try to display something like this. So for this one, give me 1 second, guys.
Azamat, can I ask something about return? You have two returns in the recursion. And
Yes.
number became 0. Are we returning two numbers? The first return and second return? Or only
So
the
that's not that's not how the function works, right? If you return something from function, you will never get this part right here.
Yeah.
All right. So if you have this guy return right here at the beginning, you will never be able to run this if statement or this return. It will be returned right here and it will end the function. That's it.
So one time number will become 0, right? When we will decrease
At some point, yeah, at some point, number will become 0.
and yeah, and that time we will return 1, but we got 120 anyway. I mean,
Yeah, because we're multiplying it. Whatever you multiply the number by 1, it's always 1. It is always whatever the number is, right?
we are using that one to multiply.
So
Okay, just okay, we decrease it, it became 0. If it's 0, we return 1, and at the end we multiply by 1 the sum. Can't really explain how. Shit.
okay, here we go. So let me put a 5, right? Now initially we're getting 5. Okay. So 5 comes here. Is it is equal to 0? No. Then return this one, right? Basically 5 multiplied by factorial 4. Okay. 5
Yeah.
multiplied by factorial 4. Let's just say 4. Now I'm going back again. Now in this case, number is 4. Now I'm constant log number 4. Is this 0? No. Then return num is 4. Now in this case right here, this one is returning 4 multiplied by factorial now what? 3. It goes again. I'm constant logging. No. Okay. Same thing. 3 multiplied by and 2 multiplied by 1. Okay. Multiplied by. Now in this case, we're comparing 1. All right. 1 is we can definitely, instead of 0, we can definitely put 1 over here to eliminate this 0 part. Okay, instead of like additional multiplied by 1. So if I put 1, okay, if I put 0 right here, right? So my number is 1. Okay, so 2 minus 1 is 1. Is 1 is equal to 0? No. Then return 1 multiplied by, in this case, 0 now. Okay? So now it's right here. If 0, is it 0? Yes, return 1. Now in here, I'm returning 1. Right? So instead of returning 1 right here, I'm trying to eliminate this part right here, additional 1. So we can just do, oops. So we can do like this. So in this case, we just put 1 right here. If num is equal to 1, then return 1. Because we don't care about the 0 or below 1.
I see. I think if it was 0 instead of 1, it will be like infinity multiplying, because if it's 0, we making him 1, where it's decreasing, it's became 0, we return 1, it's like something like infinity. No?
No.
Okay,
Here's the thing.
Azamat, yeah.
Here's the thing. Yeah, I understand where you're going there. Okay, it sounds like infinity, but we're finishing the factorial. We're finishing the, so because look, we're returning 1, right?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Because we're not calling the factorial again. We're just returning 1. Our function is finished, right?
Yeah.
We're not returning like 1 multiplied by factorial. We're not calling factorial again, because that's why we don't have a loop anymore. It just finishes right here. Because we're not calling factorial again, like 1 multiplied by factorial 0. No, we're not calling it again. This is finishes right here. As soon as it returns this one right here, that's it.
Yeah, when we return 1, 1 is number right now, right?
Yes, no, the return 1 is a number, but we're not calling the factorial again. That's it. If you're not calling factorial again, then there's no infinite loop, right?
Yeah, it stops just.
It just stops right there. It's just a return. That's it.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, thank you, Azamat.
Absolutely, yeah. Cool. So, as I was mentioning, the data based on the type right here, we can decide what type of icon also we're displaying, right? And then whether it's indented or not, right? If it's a file, then we're creating another UL, li, etc., and trying to display the children of the folders. Okay, so different folders can be children of a different folder too, right? Just like that. Components and styles and modules, 3 folders, children, and we have files. Okay, so this is our data, and this is the project right here, guys. So we should have exact same thing as you clone this guy right here. I should be able to paste it in here too. It's in the Slack chat too. Just grab, clone, and we should be good to go. Okay. All right. So, of course, initially, we need to grab the data first. Okay. Right over here, this is my actual thing over here. Now, I need to grab the data. Data is coming from assets.data. You guys should have exact same thing. All right. So right over here, I would like to put a Turner operator here, checking the length, right? If I have a length, then display something like div, yes, data, right? If I don't have a data, then display a paragraph. All right, the paragraph will just say no data found. All right, for now we have a data. But if I say constant data is equal to empty and no data found. Okay, so we do have data. So we're going to start from the helper function. Right over here, I will create a helper function. And I will try to display everything inside my helper function. Okay. Let me create a function down here. Function helper function component. Not a regular function, it's a component. Okay. So now I can use this helper function. Right? And then I will pass down our data. Now I'm getting my data down here. And I'm returning something. Okay, I will be returning something here. Of course, since we are trying to display like this, right? We will display this data in the unordered list. Okay, you guys can definitely use ordered list or unordered list. It doesn't matter. Okay, so right now return UL, right? And then data. Inside my data, I will try to return LIs based on my the type of the data right here. The type dir, then li. If type is a file, then something else. Right? So the perfect thing is to map through the data first. What we can do here is item. But I need to create item and index. I will be using index too. Right? Item and index. I'll just put index as a key to my LIs. So now map is missing in props validation. One thing I forgot was come down here, React/prop types off. Okay, and save it. Now we shouldn't have any problem with props validation in Vite React application.
Azamat, what was the error? For
The
the
error
map?
that it is expecting some sort of a prop validation for our components.
Oh, okay.
If you don't have this guy right here, you definitely have to type prop types and then the helper function, etc.
Can you please show that file? I just want to take a picture to use it.
Yes, not right here.
See, it's in his. Thank you.
Yep.
Azamat, excuse me, where did you get the helper function? I just missed it.
I just created the helper function right here.
Oh, okay, under. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I can create in the components right here actually. Components and get this helper function. ASX out of CE helper function. And now I can just grab this guy right here. All right, and put it right over here.
Azamat, when you created this function in app.jsx, was it as a component or not? Because you added in return as a component, like.
Yeah, so that's the exact same thing, guys. So if you create a function down here, you can create a component right here. It doesn't matter.
Oh,
It's just an internal file. So we're creating a function over here and we're exporting it. That's it. And we're right here. We're just creating a function and it has a hosting, right? Whatever we can use it.
Yeah, I thought
But
it
if you're
should be in
if you're
different
using
file.
const, then you have to create it right here. Okay, so you can create multiple components over here. You don't have to create the components a folder and then keep for all of your components in here. But just a modular coding, right? So instead of keeping all of the functions or components over here, we can just create the separate functions for those and then export and import those functions in our app.jsx component. So it's up to you guys. All right, so now I'm missing the closing tag for my UL, and I'm missing my data. So now I just need to export this function like this. Import helper function from components helper function. All right, so we're not returning anything. All right, so if I return li, item is what? What is my item? Item is this guy right here, right? Each item. If I say item dot name, okay, so if I say item dot name, I should say something like this. How many items do I have? 4. 1, 2, and 2 files. As you guys can see, public src package.json, right? Public src package.json and readme file. Yeah, but the thing about is that, all right, we were able to display this one like this. Okay. What we are trying to do is we need to put if-else statement right here. As I was saying that from test.js, right? If type is, if the file type is a dir directory or file, right? Dir for directories and file is for regular files. Based on that solution, we can return. If it's a folder, just return these names. If it's not a folder, if it's a file, then we can return the name of the file and then call this function again. And then pass the data. The data being, what is it? In this case, children. If the type is dir, now we need to pass the children. The children is also array. Okay, just like the data itself, the children is also array. Now, when we pass this children array down to helper function again, it will go through the same process again. Okay, so now data.map, initially, data is the whole thing, right? Data is the whole thing, this array. So we're checking now. Inside my map, like as you guys know, before my return, I can run if statement, right? Also, I can return something inside my if else statement too. So right here, if item dot type, okay, is equal to file, if item dot file, if item dot type is equal to file, and we can return where's my li? Okay, here we go. Okay, as you guys can know, see, only the files, since I have only 2 files in the current thing. Now type file, package.json, readme, right? That's what it's returning it. If item dot type is file, return this li. If it's not a file, then we can return something else, right? If it's file, it will return this guy. It will not run anything else. If it goes inside if, it will return this, but it will not run this return. Okay, so now I will be doing this exact same thing. Okay, in this case, return li item.name. Now, if I put like this, it will be exact same thing, right? However, if it's a dir, if it's not a file, then I would like to run my helper function again. And if I run my helper function again, my helper function is ul. Basically, I will have UL and LI, and inside LI, I should have another UL LI, right? Because I'm running this helper function again. So now item.name, I would like to display item.name, of course, and now I need to display helper function again. Because it's not, if it's a file, it will return this one. If it's not a file, which is basically a dir, right, directory, then return this one. But when you are returning this one, our data should be what? In that case,
Children.
children. Children.
Azamat, before recursion, you couldn't see the last two files, right? I didn't.
Before recursion, right here. No, I was seeing all of them.
You have. Oh yeah, yeah. You have 4 in total. Okay.
In total, yes, I have. So
I'm
I have
confused.
two folders and 2 files.
Mm.
And these are file and these are dir. Okay, so all right. So if it's a directory, right? If it's a directory, now the public is a directory. Okay. Basically, I'm running this helper function again. Basically, I'm saying, okay, create another UL and inside and do the same thing, same process, right? Do and then in this case, I will be doing item.children .map, same process, item.children .map, and this if else statement, right? But instead of doing this one right here, right, manually, we already have the helper function. We can utilize the helper function, and it will do the recursion for us. So it was public. If it's a public, send the children, right, down to helper function. Now inside my children for my data right here for public, all of them are file, right? File, file, file. That's why I have 3 files. Now, what about SRC? The second one is SRC. It's a directory, and I'm sending down the children. Okay. Again, the children is a dir. In this case, components. Now I need to run the helper function again to display the children of the children, right? The components and the files. Okay. So what since it's a map, it will go one at a time, right? Item by item. So it will do first item and it will jump to the second item. It will jump to the third item, etc., until we finish the array. Now it's kind of similar, right? So remember from factorial and the sum, if type is file, return this, like basically return 1 or return 0, right? Or if regularly return item.name and then helper function. All right, so for this one, we can definitely utilize React icons. I'm pretty sure you guys already used it. React icons. All right, so npm install React icons. So let's just try to import this guy right here. So they do have something called file folder, right? So basically instead of file bear, file folder and file. Okay, so what we can do here, if it's a file, what we are trying to display is a file, right? we can just do file and close it out. Right? So these are the files. Same thing for file folder. Right over here, you can just say file folder like that. Okay, so these file colors can remain same. Let's just change it inline styling for this guy right here, style, and put the color to red. To distinguish the files from folders. Any questions?
I don't have questions.
Yeah, everything is cool. This recursion. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. So I forgot to use this index. I was going to use this for the index, all right, and this guy right here. All right, do you guys got the latest? So, all right, we were able to display this like this. Now I have another sample, which will be exact same thing, right? But we will add some functionality to this displacement. I mean, this type of display, okay? So what we can do here is that, let me see if I have it. Let me pull it a little bit this way, okay? So right here, they're not clickable. What I'm trying to do is when I click this folder, it should shrink. When I click it back, or I can collapse and expand. When I click it, it should expand. When I click it again, it should collapse, basically closed out. Let me see if I can show you guys the example here. Okay. Okay. Oh, looks weird. But anyway, so right over here, if I click it, okay. All right, so simple Vite app. We have node modules, we have public. Inside public, we have Vite.svg, something like this, right? They did, but I deleted. And then if I go to SRC, we have assets, we have components, and etc. Okay, utilities, but we're not able to click the files to display them. But other than that, these are pretty much similar to our app structure. Okay, let's try to do that. So we're done with this guy right here. This is what we are trying to display, right? So let's switch back to the second demo app so that we can be on the same page. Try to clone this guy right here. What time is it? 5:47. We still have some time. If I can share this code in the Slack chat too, you can definitely grab it from the Slack chat too. Yeah, so this guy has a little bit different data structure. I mean, the data we're going to be dealing with. Okay, so initially it's an object. It's not an array. it's an object. But it's pretty much similar, right? Instead of children, we have items. Instead of the type dir or file, we have is folder true. If it's a file, is folder false. Okay, is folder false. Basically, type file. And this is type dir. Similar to other data structure right here. But we are setting up this initial array of objects to object. Okay. And now we should be able to click our the buttons to be able to display it. So let's just clone it and then do npm run dev. Okay. Hello world. Oh, one thing I would like to show you guys over here before we switch back to other guy, right? So I said we have a helper function over here, and we basically created another function, right? Another component. Okay. Now we can definitely do the same thing with our app function itself without dealing with a helper function. How can we do that?
Excuse me, can you please repeat Azamat question?
So we created a separate helper function, right? We
Yeah.
created a helper function. Instead of creating a separate helper function, I would like to work on this app.js itself. Basically, instead of helper function, I would like to call the app itself. I would like to call the app itself.
You
Kind
you
of
can use, yeah, you could use
Same thing,
recursion.
yeah, same thing, yeah. So instead of data.length, etc., what I can do here is that bring this UL. Do I have UL here? No. So my div will remain as it is like that. Okay. I'll just bring this guy over here, data. Okay, data.
Your app is empty.
Yes. So the thing about is that right over here, I can just call app itself like this. But am I receiving anything right here? No. So for that, I should get something for the data, right? Because when I'm calling as a recursion this app component itself again, I'm passing this data props. Now I should be able to receive this data. So now I can just go down to my main.jsx, and right over here, I can pass down data. And I can grab this data from data.js. Okay, so now so function app data data.map item.index and app.data item.children.
Need to import that for folders.
Let me close this guy out. We don't need that data. Data is coming. Oh, you think that's okay? So let me check the inspect the console log. Okay, so file folder. Okay, so we need to import those guys right here. That was the main issue. We're not using helper function anymore. Okay. All right, so it looks weird because I think the wrapper So the thing about is that I don't need this wrapper, right? Because this app.js has a div called wrapper, right? What we can do here, I need to remove this wrapper, right? This wrapper too. Of course, it's going to complain that this one doesn't exist. Okay, it looks like this, but somehow I need to put the wrapper. Okay, it will look like this. So basically, I'm grabbing the app data, passing down the data. Think about this as a helper function. Okay, think about this as a helper function. Think about this file is like we are inside that app.jsx, right? And we have a helper function, but we are using app.jsx itself, and we're passing the data down to app.jsx. And based on the app.item.children, we're running this app.jsx again. But of course, it doesn't. It wouldn't hurt to have a helper function and run it like that. Okay, so we can do this guy right here. No helper. And this one with helper. Oops. Okay, so this one was with the helper, right? So need to grab it again. No helper with helper. No help. I don't need the helper anymore. So oh my div wrapper, okay, and put ULLI. And we're going to be using the data. Okay, but data is not going to come over here. All right, it's going to be exact same thing. This one is the no with the helper. Of course, we should not pass anything down here. This one is with the helper, and we have already helper function component. And this one is no helper function. And main is also no helper. It's just like just keep in mind, it's not a big deal. We just do git app commit changes. But to me, it definitely makes sense to have a helper function and display in the UI. So how about we fetch the data? Okay, we're using local, right? We're using local. How about we fetch the data? What's gonna happen now if I fetch the data? Right, we're gonna utilize this helper, but in this case, it's gonna be API. Okay, and we won't have local data. And right over here, we need to fetch data. And you guys can use this base URL that I'm going to provide. Okay, it's in the Slack chat. Can also provide right over here for convenience. All right, so if I open this and this same thing, type there, name public, whatever we had in our application is the data. I just grab this whole thing and put it into mock API. All right, it's an array. Initial two of them are directories, and the last two is just a file. Nothing different than what we had, the local data. But we just need to grab it from what? API call. Right, so constant data. What am I doing? That data, use state. Okay, you can either put a null, all right, or just empty array. It's up to you guys. All right, so inside my use effect, initial loading, right? Component did amount. And it will run only one time because the dependency array is empty. So right over here, we would like to fetch our data. Okay, I can do try catch and do my thing, or would like to create a function called right here, fetch data, async function, and call that function inside my use effect. Initial, as soon as my DOM loads up, renders, use effect will run, and this function will get called. And this function will have a try catch. Inside that try, we'll have constant response, await. First, wait for this response, right? And we'll just fetch this guy right here. For that, we'll just do a constant base URL. Okay, constant base URL, and I will be using this base URL.
Azamat, just here, is it the base URL should be outside of function or it can be inside?
It can definitely be inside. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, that's all.
Most of the time, we should put our URLs. I mean, in a real world project, you will have a lot of URLs. Okay, there will be a lot of API calls within your projects, and then usually they put inside a file, like a utilities file, or called URLs. It's a .js file, etc. Okay, keep it under assets, or it's up to you guys where to keep it. But yeah, you will keep all the URLs in single file, okay, and then use it from that file. Because think about it, if you use it like this in every single file, and somehow the URL changes, right? And you have to go inside every single file, whatever you use, this base URL, and change that file. But instead of that, we'll create a file and then put this base URL, and and use it in any of the files that we desire. And if anything changed with the URL, there will be only one place to change it, and that's going to be the file that holds all the URLs. Okay, this concept is very important in Redux. Oh, remove unused declares. Forget about it. Okay, so just keep in mind. But for now, it's very simple project, and we have only one file to deal with, one component to deal with. So we'll just deal with it. Okay, and then constant.log error. So constant data is equal to await rest.json. Cool. So we need to deal with the data now. With helper API, I guess I will just go right here, forget about the data. All right, cool. So main.jsx with helper API. Okay. Initially, of course, I don't have anything. It's fine. And we're dealing with this with helper API. So we fetch the data and we're setting the data. Set data with data. Okay, so now, since we set as a null, we need to make sure that we have data first. It's not null. If it's null, then no data. Right? Initially, no data. As soon as we get the data, we are displaying our files and folders. The only thing changed was the fetching the data. That's it. Okay? The only thing changed was fetching the data. So based on this setup right here, you guys know how to, I think I showed you guys last time how to create a custom hook, right? So just create a custom hook, put this logic in there, okay? And then get the data as a return value from that custom hook, return the data. That's the only thing you should return, because in here, we're not going to be using set, we are using set data, yeah. But yeah, initially it will set inside the fetch data right here, use effect, right? That's it. And we're returning data. That's just a simple assignment for you guys to create custom hook. And this is our latest changes.
Azamat, is it good practice to use try catch for fetching?
Of course, it is definitely good practice to use a try catch. Cool. So let's get back to our, all right, 6:05. How about we take 10 minutes break?
Yep. Let's take it.
Let's do 10 minutes break. Okay, guys. All right, so I hope you guys cloned this project. All right, so we're gonna go with the first approach. Okay, helper function. Helper function that JSX.
Okay, this is the second project, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so the first one was not clickable, okay? We're just displaying the data. Right?
Okay.
The second one, what we are trying to do is make these folders clickable. When I click it, it will expand. When I click it again, it will collapse. Or yeah, collapse, right? So this is what we are trying to do. If there's nothing, then there's nothing to show, right? So okay, that's what we are trying to do. We'll bring this guy over here. So we're not using React, right? Helper function. And of course, we're going to be getting the data and we're going to deal with the data. Let me grab my ESLint. See, am I recording? Excuse me, I am. So React prop types and come down to my ESLint RC. Put it down here. All right, so there's no prop validation anymore. Yep, I don't have anything. So now instead of hello world, I can pass down my helper function. Okay, and then data. The data I will be using from locally. Somehow it did not fetch the data. Okay, I do have data. Did I export? Yes. All right, so let me just import manual import how I'm exporting it. Default, okay. I import data from assets data. All right, everything is happening inside my helper function. So the logic would be if all right, so if my data is an object initially, right? My data is an object initially. So I'm going to check this is folder. Is data is folder, right? If it's true, then return. Let's just return a div. Okay, so for these guys, I do have inner one and inner two, right? So just assume that there's a class name are already set up. So for it's going to be inner one, last name. So if data is folder, if it's a folder, return this guy. Right? If it's a folder, return that guy. If it's not a folder, in this case, it's going to be just a file. And let's just assume this is a folder. Okay, so if I say return div class name data folder and just data dot name. All right, as you guys can see, there's only one folder. Initially, we have only one folder in our data. The top folder is just by itself is a one single folder. Okay, so we're not using any type of recursion right now, but we will. So use, if it's a folder, right, data.name. If it's a folder, data.name. At the same time, let's just put the div first, right? So div and data.items. Okay, data.items. Does the data.items exist? If it exists, then data.items.map. Return. Okay, so basically, if it's a folder, we're displaying the data.name and we're displaying a div. And this div will do some recursion, right? First of all, we're running data.items, okay? And then when we are returning it, we will return this helper function again. We will return this helper function. Of course, not like that. Helper function, but as a data, what we are going to pass as a data?
Item.
Item.items. Data items that, oh, sorry. We're going to pass item actually. Yes, you're right. So inside items, right? Every single item. You're right. Every single item will be passed as an item. So this initially assuming that this object is an item, right? And then we will be passing this items each. And so basically we're passing item. Okay. Somehow this setup is looking really weird. The styling. All right, how about, do we have any styling for no? So for the wrapper, Let's just font size at 24 pixels. Try to show it bigger. All right, not bad.
So you need to use inner two for
Oh yeah, yeah. Inner two, we will use for something else.
okay.
Inner two, we're gonna use for something else. So now these are the folders. The initial, the root folder is this guy right here, and we have node modules is a folder, vid is a folder, bin is a folder, public, etc. So how about we put our React icons? Okay, so let me just first of all go back to React icons and get this guy right here to my other project. There we go. Right, and then from other project, I will grab this guy right here and paste it right over here. And now, right over here, I can just use folder. Not over there. Made a mistake, guys. Sorry about that. Right over here. Let's just put space in between, and we don't need this guy. Okay, these are the folders. So if it's a folder, where's our if statement? If the data that is folder, then return that one. What about if it's not a folder then? So right outside right here, oh, we do have already this guy right here. So instead of helper function, we'll just return a div. Okay, and we're gonna have the same class name, inner one. Okay, and we will return let's just return data.name. Okay, data.name. It looks weird initially, but we'll try to make these guys clickable, right? So we'll try to add additional stuff for that. So for that, I will need to grab this guy right here, put it over here, put it space in between, but in this case, I will use file. Oh, sorry about that. Messed up. Cool. Same inner styling for this guy right here. Put the color as red. Those are the folders. Nothing special, as just like we did last time. Okay, these are not clickable. Let's try to make these clickable. Right, so what we are clicking is basically this guy right here. Right, instead of putting this guy like that, let's just put these inside a div. Right, so div, and this div will have a class name called inner2. Okay, this div will have a class name called inner2. So now we can put this guy like this. Inspect. Let me put this console down there. Okay, cool. What is my inner two is doing? Display flex, align item center, padding, blah blah blah. That's because of the height. It's too much, too rem. Okay, so we have div class name inner two, and now this is where we will be adding a click event to this one, right? Basically on click and handle click.
Azamat, I when you created the only files, if it's not folder, so you called all of them after folders, but they're placed like some files inside some folders, someone they are placed. I'm so sorry. В общем, вы возвращаете все файлы в конце, после папок, но они расположены внутри других папок. И я не понимаю, почему так происходит.
Well, let's take a look at the data, right?
Да.
So you're saying that do we have public? Yeah, public. And items is only one file.
Мгм.
Is folder false? That's a file. What else do we have? Do we have assets? Yes, right here. Oh, this is SRC. Inside SRC, we have assets. That's a folder, and components. That's a folder. Okay, and inside assets, we have items. One folder.
А то, что мы вызываем его в конце, это не меняет их расположение, то есть.
No, it's not changing anything. So based on the data that is folder, okay, we're returning this inner one, and we're not returning anything over here because our function will end right here. As soon as we return it, we're getting out of our function.
Okay, just.
Right? Yeah, and then initially we're getting sample vid app. That's the first data. We're putting the name, and because since it's a folder, now we need to call the helper function again.
And that item inside, when we used map, we got item, and this item can be only folder, right? Only folder.
This item can no.
No, because it's actually his children, and his children can be end file and folder, but we have if statement. If it's folder.
So the helper function is accepting an item. The item is an object, right? This is data. Data is an object.
There.
So this guy item can be a file. So when I call this helper function again, if this item is a file, which is this guy right here, if item, this item, right? If item is a file, then instead of running this, it will just run this.
Yeah, I see this. Я этот момент понял, но все же то, где они находятся. Okay, I will think about it.
Yeah.
I really can't see all.
You want to do the other way around, like put the return disk over here and put the return the other way. That's fine. That's fine with me too. Okay, so just take this one out and bring this one in.
Yeah, for me, it just looks like first we call all folders, and but I think we have an if statement. Yeah, he is placing somehow them inside folders.
Right over here, we said
Just
if
need to-
item type is a file, then return this one, right? And then if it's not a file, if it's a directory, return this one, right? We're just displaying the file folder name. At the same time, we're calling the helper function.
Okay, if it's file, he will call that. He will show us that file name inside that folder, right? His parent, I mean. How it look in our data?
Yes.
Okay, Azamat, yeah, I almost like understand, but I just need to think a little bit more. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, with this recursion, it's a little bit tricky to understand, but we need to take a look at the data first, Initially, my data is an object, single item. And that item has a name and is a Boolean, is false or true, and it has items. Okay, so basically I'm coming right here. The name is sample with app. All right, cool. Is this folder? It is, but we're not returning anything, right? Because it's a folder. If it's a folder, then it comes down here. I changed the placement. Okay, it's not a big deal. But since it's a folder, we need to return this part. We're not returning this part. This is for only files. So since it's a folder, we're returning this guy. And same thing, we need to display the name of the folder, and we need to run through the items. Okay, run through the why we are mapping it. Why we are mapping it. In our example right here, we're not mapping it, right? We're just sending out the data, that item, the children. Because data is an array. It's already an array. We're mapping it right over here. Okay, we're mapping it right over here. Instead of mapping it right over here, now we're mapping it the data, that items, and then displaying the helper function. Okay, we're displaying the helper function.
Okay, yeah, it's a little bit more clear.
The data structure, yeah, the data structure for this sample project is a little bit different than the other one. This one is object initially, but the other one is an array. That's why we need to send object first to the helper function, not array. Okay, we're sending object first. And then inside the object, for each item that has items, we are running the helper function again.
Yeah, Azamat, I got it.
Cool.
I got, yeah, in one moment.
All right, cool. So let's just create another helper function, basically another component, right? Just to make it a little bit simpler. Let's just call it row container.jsx. Okay, so RFCE row container.jsx. Inside my helper function, so basically this guy's right here. We'll just grab the whole thing over here. Maybe not the whole thing, just this guy right here. Okay, so row container, and inside my row container, I'll just pass this one. So it's not displaying because it says that we don't have these guys over here. All right, so let me grab this command from here and put it right over here. Git add, git commit, new changes, git push. So that you guys will have the latest change.
We need a file here. Azamat.
File?
Mhm.
Yeah, so for that, same thing. Instead of file, I will just grab the whole thing and put the row container for this one too. Okay, row container. Whether it's a file or a folder, we will use row container. And right over here inside, we need to make sure that we're getting we're passing the type for this guy right over here. Okay, so to type, since it's not a folder, it's a file, you can just pass the type called file. Okay, and then since this one is a folder, what can I pass? Type. Oops. Folder, right? Something is complaining, data is not defined. We'll come to that point. Data. Which file is that? Row container. Oh, okay. So we are using row container. Okay, so yeah, of course we need to pass down the name too, right? So it's gonna be name, because right over here we're displaying the name. Okay, so name, it's gonna be data.name. Same thing for this guy right here, name data.name. All right, so here we have type and name. So the data.name, just display the name. It thinks that everything is a folder, as you guys can see, whether it's a file, whether it's a folder, it is just displaying file folder. Okay, so we can definitely play console.log. Right. Okay, file, folder, file, folder. So right over here, we can definitely play with the type. Okay, if the type is equal to folder, right? We can display this guy right here. Right? If it's not a folder, then display file. Of course, we don't need this for the file. Okay, so row container name data.name, we're passing the type of folder, and for this one, we're passing type file. Cool. So let's work on our handle click, right? So we need to have a state variable, a Boolean. It's going to be Boolean, whether we can expand or collapse. If it's true, we need to expand. If it's false, we need to collapse. Expand, set, expand. Use state initially. Let's just set as false. Okay. If expand is false, then somehow we need to make sure that when we click it, it should turn to true, and we should be able to see the children of the folder. So constant handle click. Right. So the only thing it does is set expand. Right. So we're basically toggling it. Oops, expand. Instead of handle click, we'll just say toggle it. Okay, toggle it, and let's just make sure that we are using single line of code. Oh my goodness, hit expand. Expand. And now we can pass down this toggle down to our containers, row container. Okay, because we're going to be clicking this div right here. Row container, toggle, just pass down toggle, just copy this guy right here and pass it down to this guy too. So it comes down here as a toggle, and right over here, we're gonna say on click. All right, we're gonna say on click and click toggle. We don't have to create anonymous function to invoke this toggle, right? We can just pass this toggle as it is. So one thing I made a mistake is that since it's a if it's a file, do we have to pass this toggle? No, we don't have to click the files, right? We don't have to click the file, so we don't have to pass this toggle. Right? We don't have to pass this toggle. So we definitely have to apply ternary for this toggle. Okay. Since we are using row container for both the files and folders, we need to make sure that if it's a file, we don't have toggle, right? Toggle is undefined or null. Okay, so we need to make sure that if I have toggle, then use toggle. If I don't have toggle, then it's just null, right? Right, just nothing to click. So if I can go back to my helper function, go back to the toggle, instead of expanding right now, if I can just console.log folder, save it, right? If it's a folder, now if I click the folders, oh, we need to the other way around, guys. We need to grab these guys because this is the file, right? If data is folder is false, true, false is true, not false is true, and then this is basically for the files, but we need to care about the folders. This is when we need to pass. So the folders, folder, 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 folder. Okay, but if I click the files, nothing, right? Nothing is changing it for the files. If I click the folder, it's increasing. If I click the file, nothing is changing. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
It's not a big deal, right? So now, okay, let's try to toggle it now. Set expand, expand. What we can do with this expand? What we can do with this expand? With this expand, this, since it's a folder right here, this div right here, right? I'm clicking this row container, right? Because that's the main, it's returning this div. I'm clicking this, basically I'm clicking this div, and I need to display this guy right here. Right? So based on the display block and display none, I can put inline styling for this div. Right? So right here, inline styling, basically display. If I say display none, I shouldn't be able to see any children. Okay, whether I'm clicking or not, I shouldn't be able to see, because this is basically not, it's gone. It's nothing in there. The only thing I'm displaying is this initial folder. But if I say display block, everything is displayed. All right. So based on that, this guy right here, whether block or none, can change based on the expand value. If it's expand, make it block. If it's not expand, basically collapse, make it null. Okay, so the thing about is that we are putting expand and true, and it's displaying block. But why when I click this guy right here, why it's not showing all of them expanded? Who can explain it to me?
Because this onClick works only for that icon, not for all icons. We clicked one icon, he will work for that in his children's.
That is partially correct. Yes, you are 50% there. You are 50% there. The thing about is that basically this where's my sketchpad? Oh, that's very old. So we have a helper function, right? And it has a state, which is expand. Okay, so, but since we are using a recursion, right? Recursion, we have helper function inside a helper function. This guy also has a state called expand. Now, this guy has a state called expand. Now, they're not aware of each other right here. Okay, they're not aware of each other. And this helper function might have another helper function inside, and it has a expand. Right? It has a expand. Okay, so why it has a helper function? Because this is a folder initially. Now, if there's another folder, okay, if there's another folder, which is a helper function, it will have an expand. And if the folder has another folder inside, which is the helper function, it will have expand. So we're basically the expand that we create, the state variable, only belongs to this function right here. But we're calling this helper function because of the recursion. We're calling this function multiple times, and they isolate their own state. They hold their own state. Okay, so this expand is not a global state for all helper functions. As we are running this helper function recursively, every time we run it, we have new component is being generated, okay? And then a new state variables is being generated, which is completely isolated from other state variables. Now, it's exactly the same state variable, constant expand, state expand for other helper functions, but since we are creating a new isolated function, it will contain its own state variable, and every time I click one of them, okay, if I click node modules, let's assume that, okay, let's assume that I'm clicking this node modules, okay, and that's why I'm only displaying the children of this helper function only, not all others, right? Node modules, that's it. Now SRC is completely different helper function. Now assets is also. Okay, as you guys can see, if I click this guy right here, we're expecting that all of them will be what? Collapsed, right? Like a shrink. No, because these are all, they have all isolated state variables, and they are still, the expand for this kind of node modules is what? True. But the expand for this not much, the vid folder is false. If I click it, of course, there's nothing in there, right? There's nothing in there because we don't have any data for vid. It's a folder, right? It's a folder, it's true, but we don't have items, right? We don't have items. That's why we have this guy right here, data.items. If it's available, then display. If it's not, then display nothing. Okay, so public, and we're displaying the children of that. Any questions?
No, nothing.
No questions.
Oh, by the way, about the toggle. Does it create the toggle again and again if you pass it through down?
Of course, every
Oh.
single helper function, every single helper function will have their own the toggle.
I mean, you are passing the main toggle inside the row container, and I thought it's gonna be like a reference and it's global.
No, we're not passing this toggle into the helper function.
Oh, yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we're not passing that helper toggle into the helper function. That's why every single helper function will have their own toggle function and state variable, which is completely different than different helper functions that we are creating based on recursive term.
Oh, where is the row container? What's it? What was it?
Row container is a completely different separate component, and it's just
Oh,
and with the div we're adding it on click.
okay.
So this
Azamat, yeah.
go ahead. This is a
Using
div right here. This is a div right here. This is a div. Right? This displays a folder and the name is a div right here. I'm displaying the icon and just the name inside the div. But it's clickable. When I click it, I'm changing this expand, basically toggling it, and then it displays.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yes, Vector, you had a question?
Like if we will have really many states in function, I will use recursion
Huh?
many times. Will it like increase size of our memory? Because we are creating the state if we have like 10 states or even more, and we will use recursion for that function like 100 times. It looks like it will.
No, it's not going to cause any
He-
issue.
He'll just repeat, not he will not create. He'll just read that code.
Well, you will definitely have different in memory, you will definitely have different components like a helper function, right? It's going to be multiple of them, but they're isolated from each other.
They're independent, right?
Yes, they're completely independent from each other. Yes.
Okay.
Why I cannot expand it?
And if I will fetch in the function, and again, if I will use recursion,
You guys see right here?
will I fetch a lot of times?
Oh, the fetching?
Yeah, if I will have, if I will fetch.
No,
No,
because
only one time.
no, because we're passing the data over here, right? Initially, you just fetch the data and pass down that data. That's it.
Oh, it's his
Because
parent.
we're not fetching the data inside helper function. We're fetching the data in the parent of helper function. And when we get to the helper function, we're just using the data, fetch data. So we're not fetching any data over here.
But if we will fetch inside function, what will happen? Will we fetch every time when we use recursion?
Of course, yeah, just like that. See right here. Let me grab this guy and let's try to show it to you guys right over here. Expand it. Okay, so inspect components. You see right here, we have lots of helper functions.
Mm.
Okay, so that they're completely different. So helper function. Look at that. We have helper function and the helper function inside another helper function. Okay, so and this helper function is sibling of this one, not this guy's right here. So we have all of them are isolated from each other. That's why we have when we click it, it will display the child in the row container over here. Okay, so it is okay to have multiple similar functions. Right, so initially the initial helper function is this guy right here when we run it, and we have a row container. That row container is displaying basically this sample bit, right? Sample bit. And now if I click it, it is displaying all of these helper functions. Now I think somehow I clicked it. Let me see. Maybe I'm too high, that's why. Right here.
Looks like
Let me try to display it on the right side. Okay, here we go.
recursion really fills up the memory a lot. I don't know, it looks.
This helper function is node modules. This one is moving public. This one is src, AESnet RC. It's a helper function. It's a file, right? That's why we have only row container. We don't have any child helper functions. But if I go back to src, we have row container and we have child helper functions. Of course, this is a folder, and we're displaying the name of the folder, and we're displaying the children of the folder.
And each helper function contains same information.
Same information, yes, but they're isolated from each other. Exact same, the whole thing is exact same thing, right? Because we're using recursion, and every time we are running recursion, we're receiving different data. All right, we're receiving different data, and we're returning different. We're returning different JSX based on the type of the data. That's the only difference, right? Please go over this code after the class or whenever you have time, one more time. Try to understand how the recursion works. It's very important to understand the logic around the recursion. Right, so let's go over these factorials or the sum of the array functions, etc. to understand recursion.
And does the drop downs work in the same way?
Drop down like
Accordion? Oh no, not accordion. Like menus, some menus. Like
course,
in the
like-
navbar.
Yeah.
Okay.
try to use the bootstrap or React strap, something like that.
No, I mean like if we need to hard code it.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. Why not? So you just put the down arrow or up arrow, right?
Yeah, guess so.
Click it, and based on that click, you just display none or display block. All right, it's 7:02. If no questions, we can move on to the next project.
Yeah,
Okay.
no questions.
All right, cool. So this project is Not sure if you guys saw this project before.
In schedule, we had the menu project. Will we do that? It was food menu.
In the schedule, I think we had the movie, which I was planning to do. Right, so the movie React hooks practice, where we at? 20? Yeah, convert movie project into hooks. Did we do it this project with the class component?
No, I don't think so.
And why?
No, we didn't do it like that.
Yeah, this curriculum is I think just a copy paste from previous cohort. But we didn't do the movie project in class component. That's why it's just convert this into hooks, right? So so instead of that, I was planning to do this world clocks project. Not sure if you guys did it already. Let's go to React. Okay, let me try to find it. Now, what is it, accordion? Now, interesting. Two-way binding, basic to-do list. Now, movie celebrities. Is it menu? No. Yeah, this is the one that we were supposed to do. We never had a chance to separate you guys into groups. My goodness. All right. Let me try to find in one of these guys right here. All right, here we go. Open a new tab. This guy right here. Did you guys do it?
No.
It's very interesting project. Okay, so basically, we are using time zone to display the exact timing right now in everywhere. Okay, so for instance, if I look at the Asia Bishkek right here and click add clock, this is the time in Bishkek right now. Okay, Asia Bishkek. If I click again, it's not gonna hit because we already have this Bishkek edit. Right, so I can definitely change anything to Chicago time. The time in Chicago is right now 9:06. Okay, Cancun. Who wants to go to Cancun? That's the time in there. And then you can, as you guys can see right here, the time is changing at the same time every second. Every second it's updating. Okay, you can also remove. This is just a GIF image. Don't look at this guy. It may look like it's working fine, but no, it's just a GIF. Right? Yeah, that's the only functionality of this project. Nothing special, right? So, but we're gonna be using a package called moment time zone to be able to display.
Are we gonna finish this project in the last hour, or we will not?
I don't know.
Time.
Maybe we can, maybe we cannot, but we'll see. Do you guys want to work on this project, or you guys would like to work on a restaurant menu project as a team?
I guess the clocks are
Time
more
is
fun
something new for us. The time.
because in a restaurant you just need to sort the items, right?
No, I know.
It's just one method and
Okay, how about we take a 5 minutes break and then come back.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Азамат, можно
Yes.
спросить у вас? Вот,
Yes,
возвращаясь к проекту меню, как сделать так, чтобы когда выбираешь продукты и кладешь их в корзину, если ты выбрал 2 или 3 одинаковых, нужно не увеличивать ну, карточку их, а просто увеличить какое-то количество, вот не могу вообще понять логику этого. У меня был проект типа магазин кроссовок, я откладываю в корзину, и мне нужно, в случае, когда у меня есть много одинаковых, убрать все лишние карточки и просто добавить к ним номер, я вот логику не могу реально понять. Можно после урока показать вам?
absolutely, yes. So I'm guessing like something like let's say that you have data, right? I mean, data.
Я могу сейчас показать дейта, как выглядит у меня.
Let's just take a break, and after the class we'll.
Вот да, после урока. Окей, thank you.
All right, guys, let's get going. So for this project, please clone this guy right here. Again, I just created a starter code so that we can work on it right away instead of dealing with the CSS and other stuff, right? I'm also sharing it in Slack. Cool. So now this is how it looks like. I don't have anything special, guys, right? So what I did is just put some CSS styling, right? And app.jsx returning a huge thing. Okay, so basically this header, and we have it says world clocks, and then we have GIF, and we have main part, which consists of two sections, a site and a section, right? Basically, this can be one component, and this can be another component. All right, everything is hard-coded right now. Right over here, we were adding stuff like this. Okay, now right over here, everything is hard-coded. This div single time zone is basically this guy right here. Right? Nothing is clickable, nothing is being eliminated from the screen, nothing is edible, and we can these options are over here, right here. Option to select the time zone, and option 1 and option 2 are over there. But we will display these options once we fetch the data. I mean, once we get the data from moment time zone. Okay, moment time zone, we will utilize this third-party package, right? So this is very interactive to see what time is it right now in every corner of the world. Asia, Bishkek, it's 8:16 right now. So yeah, we will utilize this package. All right. So as I was saying, everything is hard-coded right now. Nothing is working for now. And the only thing we have is just the styling and hard-coded HTML, CSS stuff. Any questions before we start? We're good?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, so cool. So now the first thing we need to start is separating into each components, right? So basically I've done that part already. Okay, so if you go down to assets and if you go to other, we do have a site, which only contains this guy right here, this part aside. Okay, and we do have header, which only contains the header section right here. Basically, it's just I'm grabbing this guy and separating it to its own components. Okay, so we have main, which only contains a side and section. All right, the section contains, it's just these guys right here, hard coded. And single option is just a single option. Right? It's not being used, but it will be used in a site right here as a single option. Okay, so right now I can just change this guy to components, right? And then bring this guy to one up level. Now we have components. Okay, now we have components. And now inside my app.jsx, let me just do copy paste, say original. Okay, just keep it in there. All right, cool. So now in that app.jsx, I don't need this header part. What I need is did I not export these guys? Header, export default header. Yeah.
You have extra closing tag for header.
Do I have? Okay, probably. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for that. So I forgot this to grab this header. Yeah, you're right. Cool. Header. Now exact same thing. All right, so for the main, I said that I already have the main. Let's grab the main. Export default main. Here we go. Main. Cool. So now inside my main, everything should be fine. Aside, a section, aside, a section, etc. So basically, right now they're all connected to each other. Okay. So as I was saying, we need to install moment. Okay, what we can do is npm install moment time zone. All right, it is installed. And now we need to import moment from moment time zone. So the thing about is the time, the moment time zone is, if I say console.log moment that the tz, which will grab the time zones and names, it's a function that comes with the tz. Okay, if I console log it, it will return every single time zone for my application. Right, so every single time zone like this. There's 596 of them, and they are just strings. They are just array of strings, nothing else. Okay, it is an array, and it's just array of strings. So, which is helpful to display my everything right here, right? There's 596 of them in this select, and now we can put inside my select those data. Right? So it comes with a moment package. We're not fetching any data. As soon as we install this third-party package, it comes with this moment, and the moment names function will provide us the names of the time zones. Okay, cool. So for that, we can just create constant time zones, right? We're not using a set time zones because we're not going to be changing the time zones. The only thing we need is use a state variable for time zones and display these time zones inside this select tag. So use state, and I will just grab this guy right here and paste it over here as an initial value.
Well, Azamat, I just surprised. So we had a user ref, right? User ref to just keep some data without any changes. So when we use state like this, it's very similar to user ref, right?
It is, yes, definitely. But yeah, well, we can definitely use ref for this purpose too. Okay.
Some differences.
So the thing about is that if you are not re-rendering your component,
Oh,
okay,
it's
and
yeah.
also if you are not displaying your state variable inside the UI, then you can definitely use ref. But in the UI, we're trying to display our data right here. Okay, we're not updating our time zones. Yeah, that's fine. But we're displaying in the UI. Okay, if something changes and if it re-renders, then we have to use state. Otherwise, stick with use ref.
That we could use something.
What?
Okay, yeah, Azamat again.
We can definitely use ref, yes. But let's just stick with use state, okay? So we're not passing anything to the header. We're going to be passing everything to our main. Time zones. Let's just work on these time zones first. Let's just get this select taken care of. So we're passing main, and down here we have time zones. Okay. And also we need to pass these time zones down to the section. Now you guys realize that we are doing what? What we are doing? From FJS to main, from main to section, what we are doing?
Single option.
Prop drilling, right? Prop drilling. We're basically doing prop drilling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yes, I think instead of this section is the one on the right side. Sorry about that, guys. The section is the one on the right side, right? Instead of section, we need to pass down to the aside. Apologize. We need to pass down to aside because this is the aside right here. We need to pass down to aside. And inside the aside, we grab these time zones. Let's grab this time zones. What we are doing here is right over here, instead of displaying these guys, of course, we need to keep this option over here. Right over here, we can say time zones dot map. Okay, time zones dot map, and we can just say zone and keep the index inside the parentheses, of course. Okay, and return option. But instead of option, we have what? Single option. Instead of returning that option, we have a single option. So we can just return single option, and we can eliminate these guys. So now we can pass the key index as a key for these guys, and we can pass this zone as a zone. The only thing single option does, which is zone, is a string, and it just displays over here. Okay, now we have all the zones displayed inside our select. And if I check my components, as you guys can see, how many single options do we have? Okay, zone, that's the props we're passing, and they're rendered by a side, rendered by main, rendered the top app. Okay, cool. So this part is done. Well, it's not done yet. Of course, we need to add the click button, right? Add clock button. We can definitely handle that part too. What time is it? I hope we will be able to finish this project. Constant handle at click. All right. So since I'm displaying every single item over here, I need to create a state for these guys, right? Array of basically list of time zones. Okay. So let's just create a state variable for this guy right here. Constant, and this will be updated every single time we add a time zone. All right. So list of selected, let's just call TZ, set list of selected time zones. Okay, new state. Initially, let's just keep it as empty array.
Azamat, sorry, are you gonna use local storage right now?
Local storage is additional functionality. If we'll have time, we'll definitely use it. All right, but yeah, of course, we can definitely implement local storage too. You know what? How about, yeah, let's just do it over here. Constant local storage data. It's going to be array of objects, right? So JSON.parse local storage that get item. Okay, local storage that get item. List of selected TC. Select the time zone. If it's there, there. If it's not, just use empty array. So now we can use this guy right here, local storage data. Same thing, we need to pass down this list of selected time zones down to main, from main down to, in this case, it's going to be section. Okay, in this case, we're going to pass down to our section. Okay, so basically we have array of objects. Now, when we at the clock, at the time zone, we're going to be adding an object into this list of selected time zones. And that object should contain ID and the time zone name and the time. Okay, the time zone name and the time. But of course, every single div right here is representing a time zone. So for that, right over here, we need to make sure that we map through this list of selected TZ, which is an array. and that's represents a time zone box, and we have index. Of course, it's not a good idea to use the index because we will be removing some stuff from the array, right? So for that, we'll just use the ID that comes from individual time zone box. Okay, so we're going to be returning here. All right, so we're going to be returning here. How about we grab this guy and create its own component? Single easy box. Single easy box, and it's going to be this guy right here. Go back, return, single TZ box. Okay, and I will be just passing down the key is going to be tzbox.id, and the tzbox will be passed as tzbox. Now we have tzbox, and now we can use the tzbox name and tzbox zone time. Again, this our list of selected TZ will look like this, right? The list of selected TZ is equal to array of objects, and objects ID contains the 1. Okay, and what we were saying over here is a box.name, right? It will contain a name. Okay, let's just say Asia Bishkek, and zone time, something like 11 o'clock, 23:00 PM or AM, doesn't matter. Okay, it will look something like this. And for other things, we'll just continue. This is what we are going to generate. Okay, this is what we are going to generate every time we click add clock button. Every time we click handle add clock, handle add click, we will generate, let's just name it add clock. We will generate this object, but of course, first of all, we need to check if this name exists in among these time zones, right? And then if this ID or this name is already inside our list of selected time zones. We check it based on the indexes. If it's there, then it will return some sort of index. If it's not, then what's going to return? So index of something. What will return if it doesn't find it?
Array, just
Now, what I was trying to say is that we have, let's say, let A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And now I'm trying to find A that index of. Okay. Index of. If I type a 6 right here, what am I gonna get? If I type 5, I will get 4. Okay. But if I type 6, what am I gonna get? Or 100. That the item that doesn't exist.
undefined, not found.
No.
Okay,
Index of, yeah. Index of will return -1.
wow, I didn't know.
It will always return -1 if it doesn't find that item. If it finds the index, then it will return the index of that item. It's okay to forget this type of tiny stuff, right? Don't worry about that. But yeah, let's just keep on going right now. All right, cool. So let's just go back to the single time zone box section, and we'll try to remove these guys right here. And they're gone. And since our box is empty, okay, our box is empty, that's why we're not displaying anything. But if I say, right, if I say, let me just borrow this guy right here. I'll just copy this guy. If I put this guy for the local storage right here, this is, it will display it, right? So basically we added some data over here. That's why it's displaying. But initially we don't have anything. Cool. So since we created our handle at click, handle at clock, all right, handle at clock. We need to pass this down to main. Okay, from the main, we need to pass it down to aside because we are using handle at clock inside our aside. And now inside our aside, we are clicking this guy right here. On click, handle at clock. Okay, on click, handle at clock. But of course, we need to put what can we put for the select?
You mean value, input value?
No, for instance, for input, right? If I have input, what do I put to like a event for input
On change.
on change? What about select? What can I add to select? Is it on click?
On change, I think also.
It's gonna be same, right? On change, based on the option change. Okay, based on the option change, we'll try to display or update our selection. So right over here, I can just say handle select change. We don't have this function, of course. We need to pass it down from our higher up. Handle select change. Handle select change. And of course, it comes from app.jsx. Now with this one, we went forward, but with this guy, we went backward. But that's fine. Handle select change. Okay, handle select change. Of course, handle select change has what? E, right? Event. And the value, constant value is equal to E dot. Oh, come on. Forget that file.
You didn't create an anonymous function, right? Or you don't need.
We don't have to. No, we don't have to. Because as we were saying, right, guys?
Oh yeah, yeah, I forgot. It was for like, yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So this guy, if you put anonymous function by itself, it already contains what? Event by itself.
Yeah. It
Right?
was if I wanna send some ID or
Yeah, if I want to send some ID or text or whatever, then I need to use anonymous function, right? And then invoke handle, handle select change function like that. Okay, but since we have only one function to worry about that, we can do this way. So now, and value is the targeted value and console.log value. Right? If I select Africa, it's displaying Africa. If I select something else, Djibouti, Kampala, now we're good to go. And so now we have our value that we are getting it. So based on this selection, okay, based on this selection, we would like to create two state variables to take effect, right? So what the one that we need is basically we're getting the name. The value is basically the time zone. Okay, for that we need to create a. Let me select this guy right here. Selected time zone name. And set selected time zone name. Initially, it's just empty string. And as soon as we get the value, okay, we can set that the name with the selected one. However, we need to check first. I mean, there is an option that we can, if I select this first one, and then if I select the selected time zone, right, I'm still selecting the time zone right here. Okay, and because of that, I need to compare the value. I need to make sure that I don't choose the select time zone. Okay, so the value, okay, is comparing the value not equal to, let me grab this guy right here, copy it, and paste it over here. Right, the value not equal to select time zone. In that case, set selected time zone name with the value. Right, with the value. At the same time, in the moment.js, okay, in the moment time zone, sorry, let's just take a look at the docs. All right, we do have something called moment. We can invoke this function and tz. Right, as you guys can see right here, if I put this guy right here, which is the value, that the selected value, okay, the selected value, it will return to me, for instance, if I copy over here and paste it right over here, you know what? I put it inside console.log. All right, as you guys can see right here, this is the format it's giving it to me. Moment tz America Los Angeles format. Right. The thing about is that it just gives us very long thing. Now from here we can select the time. We can select the time. So inside the format we can put something called. Let me see if they have it over here. Okay, let me search as HH like this. Okay, so we can grab this time as like this. So the format is initial format is like this, but we would like to grab the time only. Right. So For that, we can just put HH for hour. Of course, it's gonna be string. HH for hour, minute for minutes, SS for second. And if you put A, it will display whether it's AM or PM. Now it says displaying as PM. Okay, it is displaying as PM.
If you put there P, you will get same time.
No, this A is for both of them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Just
So,
from.
yeah, based on the time change, it just displays the same exact same thing.
Mhm.
So it's A is not AM. It's just for both of them, for AM and for PM. That's how they made their package. Okay, if you put A, it will display based on the time whether it's a PM or AM.
I just heard like AM, so yeah, I confused. It's my bad.
Is it gonna be returned military time if you remove A in the end?
All right, as you guys can see right here, see it's returning AM. That's for Asia Bishkek. So this moment package understands that based on this the time zone, okay, we're selecting this time zone, right? And then it will try to format the time for us. Okay, the time like this, and A means put AM or PM. What happens if I remove it? It will not show AM or PM over here. As soon as you put A, I mean, if you put B, it's not going to show, it just shows D. So let's put the P, for instance. Let's see what happens. See, yeah, anything other than A, you put it will just display as it is. But if you put A, they have some sort of format inside moment.js package. It will understand based on this time zone. It needs to display whether AM or PM. Okay, so select the time zone plus what we need to update. Select the time zone time. Select the time zone is the time. Is the time. We can keep it as a string initially. That's fine. And right over here, select the time zone time. I will just grab this guy right here. Okay, and put it right inside here. But in this case, instead of time zone, this manual hard-coded, I will just put the value.
Here, Azamat, yeah. You are changing the second state after the first state. So you change it the name only, state name. And after that, when you wanna change the time, you already have that name in the state.
Yeah, the thing about so the selected time zone and name, right? So if I click console.log, select the time zone and name over here. Select the time zone name. Okay, so and now select the time zone time. The first one displays the name, the second one displays the time. Right? So both of them are empty right now. Okay, but if I click this guy, right? It says select the time zone Africa Bangui. This is not a function. Oh, I was supposed to do set selected. Set selected time zone time. Set selected time zone name. Set selected time zone time. Sorry about that. Okay, now at Cairo, as you guys can see right here, selected time zone is Africa Cairo. Selected time zone time is, this is the time, the current time at Cairo.
If you console log inside that function, it will be same result.
Which one console log?
Yeah, inside this function, handle select change function.
What am I canceling here?
Yeah,
Oh, you mean you just bring it right here?
I mean, да, я имею в виду, когда мы настроили название, when we already in line 25, we are setting name. In 26, we are trying to set a time by using that name, right?
By using that value,
Yeah.
yes.
Ah, it's just value. Oh, I thought you're okay. Now I see. Yeah, my bad. I
So
thought you were using
Here
a
we're
state,
setting the value,
and
but
that's
in
why
here,
yeah, I could understand how. Как можно успеть так резко? Он же еще не настроил state. Я вот подумал. It's just value.
so in so here's the thing. In React, there's a thing called automatic batching. Okay, automatic batching means it's just the performance improvement provided by React itself. Okay, so automatic batching is by default. It comes with React 18. Before, right? Before React 17, when you do this way right here, React was updating the state twice. Okay. So before React 18, only React events were batched. Batched means like together. So after React 18, every time you run multiple, oh sorry, every time you run multiple set states, it doesn't matter how many times you run, they will be run only one time. Okay, as we know that when you run this one, it will update the state and it will re-render the component, right? We assume that if we run like this, it will update it like multiple times, like how much ever you have set a function, right? No, it's not like that. They have some sort of a functionality in React components. They will run only one time. In this case, this will update the state, right? The value, and this will update the time zone time. And then our component will be re-rendering only one time. Okay, only one time.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I see.
So starting in React 18, with the help of the create root, right? We do have create root right here. All updates, right? Every single update, like every single state update in components will be automatically batched, no matter where they originate from. Okay. As I was saying that before React 18, only the events were batched, meaning that if you have a click event, right, you have a handle select change, handle add clock. If you run multiple set different variables to change this, multiple functions to change the different variables, state variables, then they were batched. But what else? What if you have some promises, or if you have a use effect, if you have multiple set functions to change the state? Those who are not batched, you should have like a multiple state updates and multiple component re-renders. So that was not helpful because we should avoid re-rendering our components as much as possible. But with starting with React 18, no matter where it comes from, all of these set functions to update the states, whether it's a timeout, whether it promises, event handlers, or any other event, will be batched, right? Will be batched all together. Batching means they will be run only one time, and they will update the state variables only one time. That's the thing. So we updated this. Okay, this handle select change was only to update the state variable. Okay, we're not displaying anything in the UI. But what we can do here now, as soon as I click add clock, now inside this add clock, I should be able to use this selected time zone name and selected time zone time. Okay, I should be able to use it. Oh my goodness, we are running out of time. But of course, we're not passing this. We did already actually, right? We passed this handle select change. That's why we are able to use it. Now let's go back to click handle add clock. Now first, let's check if we have time zone index. Okay, time zone index means this selected time zone name. Let's see if this one exists in our time zones. So for that, time zones dot index of, okay, index of selected time zone name. Same thing for TZ time index, time zone time index. That's for this the time zone time. For this one, we need to make sure that we need to make sure that we have list of selected time zones. We need to make sure that now, as I was saying right here, when if I click this guy right here and click add, it's adding, right? But if I click one more time, the same time zone, it's not adding. It's not adding because we have a limitation down here. As soon as I click right here, we have a limitation. I need to make sure that this selected time zone, right, does not exist inside my list of selected time zones. It does not exist. So how do I do that? List of selected time zones, index of, okay, index of, well, maybe not index of, we can use find index. As you guys can know that find index is higher order function, okay? It will find the item, and the item is basically every single item over here. Now we need to check the zone name. Okay, so find index item. If item dot name is equal to selected time zone name. If it returns, right? If it finds, it will find the index. Right? What happens if it doesn't return? What happens if it doesn't return?
We'll add same country again and again.
Right? So if I say A, find index, okay, number, and for number, and is equal to 5. It's returning 4. Right? Basically, we're using a functional way of finding the index. But if I can definitely say what? Well, this way is most of the time used for if you have array of objects. But if you have just regular primitive numbers, we could just do index of 5 in like this, right? To find the index. But what happens if I don't have such a thing? Same thing. It is returning -1 with the find index too. Okay, it is returning -1. So we can put if statement down here. If maybe else statement to alert user that we already have exist. Oh my goodness, already exist. Okay, so we need to check the time zone index first. Okay, so time zone index has to be bigger than -1. All right. Basically, what it means is that we have inside the time zones, right, array of strings, we have this selected value. We have this selected value. We need to make sure that we have this selected value. And Oh my goodness. And this guy right here, right? This guy right here, you can either do s to b is equal to -1 or is less than -1. Oh, sorry, less than 0. Okay, less than 0 means basically it doesn't exist. Find index, it doesn't find it, so it returns -1. You can definitely apply different logic over here. It's up to you guys. Okay, don't focus on that part. We're trying to find if time zone contains selected time zone, and if we don't have this list of selected time zone. If we don't have this selected time zone inside our list of selected time zone, in that case, we can add new time zone. So constant new list. We can do list of selected time zones, right? Since it is just array of strings, right? Just array of strings like this. It's not array of objects, array of strings. For that, we can just create a new list with the spread operator. Okay, if it was array of objects, now we had to apply different deep cloning algorithms. But for now, this should suffice for our purpose. Oops. So now, constant new list. Constant new time zone object. Okay, and as I was saying, ID. So for the ID, if I say time zones that index of selected time zone, we're returning a time zone index, right? I can use that time zone index as an ID. And name, that's going to be selected time zone name. And zone time. Okay, it's going to be selected time zone time. Since we are naming a zone name, the zone time, let's just name this one as zone name. Okay, so of course, in my single time zone, I have to change this one to time zone box to zone name. So my new time zone object is formed. The only thing I need to do is new list that push a new time zone object, and now I can update my set the list of selected time zone with my new list. Okay. Now, if I click one more time, all right. So there is a bug that we need to fix the bug now. So it's 8:06, guys. It's way too late. There's already only three people left in the class. How about we continue next class and we'll try to finish it and
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure.
try to do something else.
Course.
Sounds good.
All right. So
Yeah.
any questions?
No.
Can you take a look, Azamat, for that question that I had?
Yes. Let's take a look.
Yes.
Sharing.
Okay, thank you, Azamat. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. Take care.
So yeah, it's